Hey everybody, welcome back to the Daddy Knows Best channel, helping you be a well-informed, educated, and happy man. And, of course, women are welcome here as well. Today we're going to be talking about, supposedly, why there is the pay gap. Jimmy Kimmel has a video here, he says, where kids explain why women are paid less than men. Let's break this down a little bit and make this a shorter video, a quickie, we might say. Let me know if you like the long-form content. I can make videos that are an hour long, but let's make a short one here today. Let's watch some of this video and give some quick commentary.
Equal pay is an issue that could affect many generations of Americans, and since children are our future, according to the song anyway, I thought it would be a good idea to get their take on it. So we went out on the street, we asked kids to explain why they think women get paid less than men.
As you'll quickly see, they're not really going to tell kids particularly any facts, but I guess it's good to see what their opinions would be. But of course, you know, this is a presumption. They tell them like it's a fact, and then they have to react to it. It's like going up to you as a man and, you know, saying like, you know, something that's against men, like, why are men always angry, or why are men always more violent? And they assert something without giving you the evidence, or, you know, where you can even have a discussion on the facts. And kids aren't even brought up to have that critical thinking. That's one reason I've talked about public schools and criticized them heavily on this topic, is because public schools aren't teaching people to look at facts and, you know, information and have rational thought. You're supposed to assume what's normal, and these leftist types have openly told and exposed themselves that they say if 95 or 99% of people believe in something, that kind of creates quote-unquote reality for them, for humanity, even if it's completely wrong regarding the science or facts or mathematics or, you know, anything else that, you know, is measurable or technical. But let's continue. And again, he makes himself seem very submissive, which I thought was very funny. This guy does not have an ounce of masculinity much in his body, and that clearly is trying to make himself look weak and capitulate, so he's not targeted either. And you'll see a lot of men do this when these types of things are brought up. They'll say that they don't know, or they'll avoid the subject, or they'll drop their masculine confidence or their frame. They'll actually make their voice lower. Jimmy Kimmel does that a little bit here. He makes his voice a little bit lower, you know, to seem weak. Anyways, let's continue.
And this is what they had to say.
Why do you think women get paid less than men for the same jobs?
Girls don't work as hard as the boys.
What are they doing instead of working hard?
Doing other stuff.
Like what kind of other stuff?
Texting and running on the track.
Why do you think that women get...
See, as I mentioned, they present this as a fact, and then this is supposed to be a quick interview, but then they show laughing like it's comedy, like the little girl is just dumb. So at one point, you know, we're supposed to respect or adore or see these people as our leader, our future leaders, but on the other hand, we can mock them if they don't have the beliefs that we believe in. But if it's something we believe in, you can't question or challenge or you know, ask questions or try to talk about the facts or the real information. But let's continue. This is clearly they have a leftist or extremist, modern extremist type, modern stance, a modernist.
Get paid less than men?
Maybe women aren't acting as they should. Maybe they're acting weird, so people think that they shouldn't be treated as fairly as men would be.
How come the women...
See, they didn't laugh about that. Women are acting more weird. I mean, why didn't they challenge that? Again, you know, they're going to laugh or try to control not only men, but women as well. But it's really funny that that was just ignored. You know, women don't act or fit into society, or maybe do the job correctly or well enough. We'll talk about some of the facts on why this actually happens, but that is somewhat of a part of it. Men are, you know, more willing to present themselves and act the way a company wants them to act. And you might say women have great social skills and women are great humanitarians and they're sympathetic and they naturally are. They naturally they have a better ability to, be, I don't know what the word would be. It's not respectable. It's relatable. That's probably the right word. A good word. And instead, modern feminist type women want to change the company. They intentionally act rude, or they intentionally try to, put in less effort, but also try to possibly, sue the boss by dressing scantily clad and seducing the boss and getting a lawsuit against him. I mean, these types of things are very common. Let's continue.
Make less money than men.
Because probably some women in California don't really have jobs.
Why do you think
Some women in California don't have jobs. I don't know why that would be funny. But with her line of thinking, I don't know why she would say that. Some women in California don't have jobs. I'm not sure where that let me know in the comments below. Why do you think she would possibly think that?
I think that women make less money than men?
I think because they're very underrated, because they can do more, but people expect them to do less.
What kind of more can they do?
See, this is the social conditioning. Women can do more than they're currently doing, but they're held back, quote unquote, by the man, or quote unquote the company, or the glass ceiling. And this is presented as the correct answer. We don't look at people based on their personal skills or their personal responsibility or their personal achievements. We look at the social conditions or the environment around them. And you might criticize me, or quote unquote red pill people, or quote unquote the people who are, going their own way, for talking about, the social environments that are against them. But there clearly are, social efforts that are being made to control and connive, against men, and they're certainly not against women. Affirmative action promotes women, and socially, in every single possible way, women are promoted, and women were even privileged before all of this with, just our previous culture, which they call the patriarchy. Women were handed and given everything and were treated as ladies and given high respect and protections, and often men would be silent or hush, or essentially worship at the feet of women, even before feminism. But let's continue.
Well, a lot of people underestimate them, and they could do so much more. There's jobs that men can't do that women can.
Like what?
Which is true. We have different skills and different aptitudes. But again, that's not what they talk about. But they love that this young boy is capitulating and trying to fit in and trying to figure out how to rationalize what he's been told and his personal the expectations of society. They're not talking about that men and women have different skills and have different abilities. They actually fight against that. They actually say that that is a problem. Their argument is that there's no difference between men and women, or that women can do the same jobs or same things and do them even better than men. So essentially, as to say that, replace more men with women in jobs. That's really what they say, that women are just as good, if not superior, to men. So again, society needs to do more to push women. Again, it's not about individual performance or individual skills. And I can tell you from firsthand experience that on average, men are more capable. Men, tend to learn and focus, and they have much better ability to do, especially not only physical jobs, but other jobs as well. They have more focus and more interest in, a company or something that's more, physical, or more like manufacturing and even technical, like things like mathematics. Women do excel, of course, in things that are social. Women love to be things like nurses, where they're helping people, humanitarian efforts, and much more. but we're not going to talk. See, they're gonna twist these types of things because they openly argue against that message. I hope that makes sense. They openly argue against the differences between men and women, and that women are skilled and perhaps have more aptitude or better ability in one area than men, so that they're different. Do you see this double speak? Whenever it's convenient for them, they can say men and women are the same, and whenever it's convenient for them, they can say women are better, and women should be treated better and promoted, and the companies and our society and the government is not doing enough for them. You see this double speak? It's one or the other. It's one or the other. It can't be both. It's a contradiction. Let's continue.
They can be an actress if they want.
And a man can't be an actress.
Well, they can do whatever their heart tells them to do.
How come the woman gets paid less?
A woman might maybe do stuff a little bit wrong, but she still gets paid less.
Why does she do stuff a little bit wrong?
Because maybe she doesn't know those stuff, and maybe they didn't teach her those stuff.
But the guy knows that stuff?
Yes.
Do you think...
So they didn't laugh at that because they kind of agreed with that, saying that the woman is not trained enough or treated well enough. That's why they didn't laugh at that, or they acted like it was maybe because she said that women are overall maybe are less skilled or talented, which they didn't like that message, but also had something that they actually agreed with, is that women aren't trained enough as well. So that's kind of a fair point. You know, we could possibly agree with that. You know, women aren't raised when they're younger. Their natural inclination or desire is to focus on society and relationships and dating and these types of things. Again, with this type of argument, they're not going to discuss or debate families or how society works in regarding to raising of children. Society is really focused on women working, and they're never going to be held accountable for the social impact and the social changes and the consequences of feminism, and you know that children aren't raised in the homes, children aren't raised with fathers in the home, and don't bring up deadbeat dads over here, because if you look at the beginnings of feminism, it was all about getting men out of the home. That single mothers would be given child support and government aid if there was no man in the home. It was intentional, and we don't want to talk about these types of things, and we want to ignore them because supposedly the most important thing in the world is getting more women into the labor force, and it's really not been a good thing for society. It really hasn't been. But of course, we don't look at the measures of how people are happy compared to then and now. And there's a lot of women who are starting to begin to complain about the consequences of this, because women openly don't want to work till they're 40 or 45, and that's early. They want to be able to retire or stop or quit this at 40 or 45. A lot of women who are these feminist work-type, college-educated women, once they start hitting 30 or 35, they realize that maybe they don't want to work anymore. Maybe they don't like this life. Maybe they would like a kid or two. And they realize that they're losing all their opportunity or the potential to even have kids or even have a family. You know, once a lot of you women, you have been deceived and you have been lied to. As much as I speak out, or we speak out against the feminist being detrimental to society, you know, you've been socially conditioned since kids in public schools and especially your colleges have lied to you. And Jimmy Kimmel here is conditioning people. He's not going to present facts. He's not going to present information that's relevant or that's important. You know, somebody's going to watch their quick 4-minute video and think that they understand the topic completely. This has 14 million views. Jimmy Kimmel has almost 19 million subscribers. And I've openly talked to people who they watch one of these little comedy shows or these little skits, and they feel like they're well informed about the issue. That's all they need to know. They're well informed. They think they know everything that's important, and if you bring up any information or any facts or studies or anything that you could add to the conversation, even if you agreed with them, even if you agreed with this quote unquote pay gap, which has been proven wrong, debunked over and over. If you want to talk about what's fake or what needs what needs to be fact checked, this is the kind of thing that needs to be fact checked, but they wouldn't dare fact check this type of thing. You see what I'm saying? They get to control what is quote unquote seen as good or quote unquote is seen as normal through social media. And that's one reason I tell so many people to spend less time absorbing what's presented to you on social media. And if you do like social media and want to mess with it, create your own content and actually fight against these types of people. So let's continue.
I think women are not as good at jobs as men.
They're very good, and they work all the time like my mom.
And how about men?
That's supposed to be cute. He's clearly doesn't want to say anything wrong, or knows that he doesn't want to make his mom angry. And this is another thing. Of course, you want to appease your family or make your family happy, but this is another big issue that we will be talking about as well, is that from childhood, men are told to never really, think for themselves. They're always trying to make mom happy and women happy, and women are not trained the same way. They're, it's not really healthy, but women aren't trained to make their father happy or daddy happy or men in general happy, and that we work together. But men are trained to be that way and continue to be that way, and it's seen as something that's good. But women can be rebellious. And how many movies and songs have you been told about, like, the daughter's a rebel or runaway and doesn't do what daddy wants and goes out there and has her fun and disrespects or dishonors the family and all this and that. Let's continue.
They work too.
Who works harder?
Moms.
You see what I'm saying? That's presented as good. Of course, mothers in the home are valuable, but it's not about who works harder. And that's also another point about this, is not only was that completely just capitulating and making it out that women, our moms are more important than anything else in society. It also says that women work quote unquote harder. It's not about how hard you work. And this is a debate I've also had with traditional or quote unquote conservative type people as well, because they believe that if you just work hard, like the boomers or your grandfather might have, or your great grandfather might have, that if you just worked hard enough, your work directly correlated with how much more money you make. But the harder you work, you don't necessarily get more money these days. Not really. There's overtime, yes, but you get taxed more for your overtime if you make enough money to move yourself up to a new tax bracket. We have a progressive income tax, and then you can become more taxed. You can actually move yourself up to a new bracket where you get more taxed, and you can actually be making less money, and you have to make even more money to get past that threshold, because now you're being taxed more, that you would possibly even be making more money. But we don't talk about these types of things. But again, success and building up of society and science and education and technology and the advancement of human civilization is not just about quote unquote hard work. Yes, work is important, but we don't live in that type of situation anymore. You don't work on a farm where the more you work, you produce more corn. Does that make sense? The more you work, you produce more of a quote unquote product. And women, the quote unquote, the harder they quote unquote work in the family home, these women, most of them don't even cook homemade meals for their kids. Most of these mothers are not stay-at-home mothers, and the stay-at-home mothers are demonized by Jimmy Kimmel and these leftist type people. They don't like they don't like stay-at-home moms, where the mom stays home. They see that as oppressive. You see, they can double speak. They can double speak all they want. They can act like that was a touching moment with a little boy loved his mom and his mom works harder. But you don't know if that kid was raised in, or is being raised in a daycare and then put to public school. A lot of these parents put their kids in daycare and then public school, and then they, essentially have an extended daycare where then they ship them off to a sports. And they, hardly don't, if ever, have to even cook for them. When you're driving home after your kid, came home from school and then played baseball after school, it might be 6, 5 or 6. You go to the drive-through to McDonald's, you come home, the kid does his homework, the kid watches some TV, and that's the end of the day. There's little to no human interaction between the parents, between the mother and the child. And you want to tell me that this mother is quote-unquote working harder than the father in these types of relationships or for society? Again, people look at mothers and these types of people, especially if you're somebody who's, in these certain positions like lawyers or, humanitarian aid or, even these government positions, certified public accountants, tax workers, any of these types of jobs, you're seen as higher status than, hardworking men, even the ones who have master's degree. Even if you are a master electrician, a master construction worker, a master mechanic, you would still be seen as possibly a less important person than these types of women. But let's continue. Hope that all makes sense. It's really annoying. Of course, mothers are important, but they don't encourage mothers. These types of women, people, are not encouraging, women to be mothers, to not go, to college or to ignore college. If somebody wants to be a good mother, you can get a certification or learn a skill and put yourself, and get on the internet and raise your kid. You don't need to be going to a college, or you can take an online college. You don't need to be physically going to a college, especially if you are more traditionally minded and want a family. But again, if you have paid attention or know anything about all of this, these types of people are completely against, women having families, especially if they're young. They act like it's normal for you to be 30 or older. They act like 30 is normal, or even 35, when it's actually very difficult for you to have a child. And if you do have a child, that child is statistically more likely to be, to have problems and deformities, and people have tried to argue against me like that doesn't exist. And I've had people literally freak out when I presented those facts on the internet. Well, I'm sorry if you were lied to, and that if you worked really hard and, you wanted to become a career woman, and now as you're 30 or 35, that you finally realize that maybe you would like a family, and that you also wanted to be, and then you want to be treated as a high value person in society, just as high value as a affluent businessman, somebody who's, high status, a CEO, somebody who has produced, technology, somebody who develops a product, somebody who works in management. I'm sorry, but yes, women are valuable in general, especially, to raise children. But if we're talking about jobs, being a mother is not a quote unquote job in a workforce. And they also, we're going to get to the rest of the video here in a second. But they put in this strange intermingling where there is this underlying effort by some of these types of people where they want women to essentially be paid by the government like if they were like a job for being a mother. Of course, they'll never talk about the single dads and how they're excluded and how many fathers want to be the dad who raises that child, and in many circumstances the father is actually a better parent than the mother. They've actually statistically proven, and there's studies that on average men actually turn out to produce better children. Children who are more responsible, more educated, more sensible, more happy. Children, mothers can be nurturing and loving and all those things, but women in general, even mothers, don't really raise their kids to be educated, to be, reasonable. They teach them to be overall more emotional and, not rational, and they're more likely to commit crimes and many other things. And I should make a video about that, because there's a lot that goes into that. Anyways, let's continue.
Have equal rights.
How do you think we're going to make that happen?
Maybe, let's see.
Equal right, quote unquote rights. Of course, that's just assumed. It's just assumed. What rights do women not have? In fact, it's men that don't have the rights that women have. I could make a whole video about that, but we can't. We're not going to go into that as much. But one of the ones people are freaking out about with Roe versus Wade, it's men who don't have the rights, in regards to, if that child's going to live or not, or if you're going to pay child support or not. The women has the complete control. Yeah, that child is, produced or nurtured, whatever you want to say it, in her body, the 9 months. But that kid is 50% his DNA, and is a part of him. And that man has no rights to say yes or no, to terminate his responsibilities if he wants to. For a man and a woman to have a type of agreement that's just as powerful, if not more powerful, than the government. A man and a woman can try to write a legal agreement, where they have an agreement with each other, but a judge can completely throw that out. Just like a prenuptial agreement, like before you get married, if you both agree on the conditions of the marriage, that's not held as powerful in court. It doesn't supersede the court. The judge's basic law, it's not even law in family courts. Most of it is illegal. But the opinions and the basic foundations can not only undermine, but you can completely throw out, any type of agreement. And again, the dangerous thing is you can just live with a woman, or a woman can just stay in your house for like a day in some places in the world, just a day. And then she can claim that she's lived there and, have the rights and the powers just like a wife would, or marriage would, just for living with you. And so in some places it's a year or two, common law as they call it. But in some places it's as bad as 1 day. And you don't think that this is being taken advantage of? Let's continue though.
If we have like a good group of people to help around the world, or maybe a good president who can...
To help around the world. See, this type of thinking is that's presented. And it's quite dangerous. These are the people who say we're citizens of the world. They want to undermine all nations, and they want to give more power to the EU and all these extremely bad organizations like the WHO. The same WHO who just controlled the world with the coup for a couple years. Let's continue though.
Could help.
And who would be a good president to help with that?
Probably Donald Trump.
They think that's funny. The thing is, these people On Jimmy Kimmel, the channel Jimmy Kimmel, they about 50, as you can see, about 50% of the population is clearly more quote unquote conservative or quote unquote American principles, and there is a difference between the two. And this woman who believes in people coming together and speaking out about these issues, openly sees and knows that Donald Trump was going to do. This was in 2016, I think, really before Trump, but or as he was getting into office. And you know, he did more, ended up doing more for women and for gays and for blacks than anybody else ever did. But they continue on with their narrative and acting shocked and acting surprised. If you're watching this in 2022, what has Biden done for blacks or women or LGBT or these types of people? Trump actually, you know, used laws and actually, you know, did things to actually help these types of people. But no, we're not allowed to talk about that. You know, we're not allowed to talk about that. And as you can tell, this news reporter or whoever this type of person is interviewing, now they're clearly shocked or they're clearly triggered. This is funny. This is funny.
Because I think he thinks of women and men same and equal.
Why do you think women make...
But see, they just ignored that. You know, she can say the right thing. She can say that Trump thinks the thing, but they're just going to ignore it. You know, they're just going to ignore it.
Make less money than men for the same jobs? Is this giving you a headache? Why?
It's not funny. The kid's tired and the kid doesn't even really understand what you're talking about. And maybe the kid doesn't really even care to think about those types of things. I mean, these types of people think it's normal to have like a 6 or 7 or 8 or 9-year-old kid thinking about social and gender types of issues. They think it would be normal for your kid to understand all these pronouns and, you know, learn essentially a new language of pronouns. They think that would be normal, but they think it would be extremely shocking and abnormal for your kid to, you know, really young, be able to drive a car, which in the past, you know, I'm talking about like 100 years ago or more, you know, kids could drive cars or tractors really young. Every little kid or every little boy had a little pocket knife. Every little boy knew how to use a little .22 pew-pew, you know, to get a squirrel or a rabbit. No, those little pew-pews and boomsticks, there used to be, you know, shooting ranges at public schools. And not only that, but parents and teachers and other people had, you know, were ready and prepared to defend. And I bring that up as well is because these types of people will lead you, you know, they want to say that I would lead you down the rabbit hole, or quote unquote freedom-minded people lead you down the rabbit hole. These people have so many people down an actual rabbit hole, you know, the real rabbit hole of leftism that's going on today, that they don't understand history. They ignore facts and statistics and information that's relevant, and you know, they are unable or unwilling to see things that actually happen in the real world. They actually blind themselves. Just like yesterday, somebody stopped another shooting, stopped it, saved lives, and they were a common citizen, a common person, you know, who they were concealed carrying, and they saved people's lives. And they want to laugh and present like this types of stuff doesn't exist, because again, a lot of these statistics are cherry picked, and they don't have real statistics, and they don't look for them because they don't fit their narrative, and it's not what they want. Let's continue.
Why do you think that women make less money than men?
Well, probably because women care about shopping more than work.
Yeah, I'm not even going to watch any more of this and present this anymore. As you can tell, most of this is seen as quote-unquote base, and they laugh at it. This Jimmy Kimmel and these types of people are in their echo chambers, clearly. They can sit here and laugh. They at one hand can say, these kids are going to be our future leaders, and, you know, and we're supposed to look up to them, and they make every effort to control and to twist them. But when they go out on the streets and they talk and they find kids and people who are actually more reasonable, these kids are more quote unquote base, or more on average much more reasonable, or quote unquote, you know, quote unquote Republican than most of society. But again, they go to public schools and they're told what to think and what to believe. You go to college and you're, you know, taught to find empowerment. You know, you went to public school. You might have been raised in a daycare, and then you go to college and you might be 20. Some of these kids or young adults are in colleges are 25 years old, and they've never built anything. They've never done any work. I mean, especially in these cities, you've never lifted a tool. You don't even know what a tool is like. You've never, a lot of these people have never cooked any food. They watch, you watch a horror movie and you're scared of kitchen knives. You've never seen anything like a chainsaw, and if you did, you'd be extremely afraid of the chainsaw because of a movie. You've never experienced much of anything, and to find identity and to find purpose, which you don't have, you cling to what these authority figures and society tells you what you should believe. So that's one reason why I bring this up. Kids are being twisted and corrupted in this machine, as you could say. You know, they want to act like these Jimmy Kimmel and these types of people like to act like you go down the rabbit hole. You're the one that's, taking over or hurting people or manipulating in all this. I mean, this is real footage. The Jimmy Kimmel show can't even hide that this stuff exists. You can't even make this up. And they certainly aren't happy about all this. They certainly are not happy. You got a Trump supporter. You got one little kid who, said that, mommy works best because he wanted to capitulate to his mommy. You had one kid who said that, women, that women work harder. You can't make this stuff up. This is not the results that they wanted. I'm amazed that this video doesn't have a trigger warning on it. And the comments are turned off. Of course they turned off the comments. My friends, I hope that you had a good laugh as well. I'm going to make this a shorter video. It's still pretty long. But I'll see you soon, my friends. Have a good one. Enjoy life. And be willing to speak with kids. Or be willing to speak about these types of issues. Again, society would try to make you feel isolated. Try to make you feel like you're the odd man out. That you're unwanted or unneeded. That there's something wrong with you. If you, believe these quote-unquote traditional or quote-unquote conservative or quote-unquote freedom-minded ideas, that you're just strange, that you're in the minority. But this is all social control and social power. Just like these types of people say fair representation, and they fight for that kind of thing because they are the minority. And if these types of people ever were to become a majority, do you think that they are going to listen or pay attention or care about the quote-unquote minority when, if they make it happen, which they just might, if they make, quote-unquote traditional relationships, traditional marriages a minority? They kind of are already in a way, but I'm talking in regards that there's more relationships or marriages that are transgender or, polyamory or all these types of, lifestyles that these people have. Do you think that they're going to be considerate or care about a traditional quote-unquote marriage? Especially if you're white and all these things. No, they're not going to care about you. They're not going to care about you. These people clearly don't care about you. Because, again, the funny thing is they talk about the constant, the betterment of society. Again, America was built on fighting for the individual and the individual freedom. But again, they can double speak. They can say, what's best for society, or what's best for the union, or they can give a speech and talk about what's best for the collective. But when the collective isn't the way they want it, and when it doesn't serve their purposes, when the collective is unified or too strong, or isn't capitulating to them, they act like it's a problem. You can't have it both ways. Again, we can point out hypocrisy all day, but start telling people about these hypocrisies. Start telling your friends. Start telling other people when they bring up these types of things. Tell them about the hypocrisy, and get yourself educated on the facts. And if these types of people don't want to hear about the facts, or if they get triggered, you don't have to debate them. You can just walk away. You don't have to debate these people. But if they do want to bring it up, if it is in a college where you're supposed to debate, again, I'll give you a quick experience as we wrap this video up today. And when I went to college, again, this was a religious private college, and we had a discussion in our U.S. American history class, which was a terrible class, and they didn't really teach us anything about American history. But one day they tried to bring up these social type issues, and there was, about half of the class was kind of neutral in regards to giving more welfare for women and single mothers. But, there were more quote-unquote traditional or quote-unquote Republican type people who opposed more welfare. This single mother was extremely, this person who was raised by a single mother, who was a proponent of single motherhood, was extremely angry and triggered and loud and demanding. And they were clearly a majority. Clearly a majority. Very few people agreed with them, and they clearly couldn't articulate themselves. They had no facts, no information. They think that they should be paid more. Paid more. These types of single mothers, again, most of them don't really even raise their kids. They get sent to daycare. They get sent to public schools. And then they get sent off to, again, some of these things can be good, like karate and baseball and soccer and football and all this type of stuff. But most of these parents these days are not raising their kids. They're simply not. They don't teach them the values. And that's the thing. These are just kids on the street. Imagine if they would have found a kid from an actual family that was actually quote unquote conservative. They wouldn't like what that person had to say, because it doesn't suit their purposes. It doesn't suit their purposes, what these people want. I hope that you see that this is all part of essentially depopulating the world, and for these types of people to have control on society. Because if you have weak families or no families, if you have people who are emotionally minded, who don't know facts, who don't see facts, who don't even look to demand the facts, they're just, believe what their news tells them to believe. What's the next current thing? Somebody tells them to believe something. Their teacher, their college professor tells them that they should believe something. Jimmy Kimmel and these types of people tell you what you should believe, and if you don't believe it, they laugh at you or mock you or insult you on Twitter. Some people are gonna some people are going to be affected by that. But, you know, you would do an awful lot of good, even if you don't want to debate, put yourself in a bad social light. If you just had friends or family and say that, you know, that you know, do support, you know, marriage, or if you quote unquote support women, because feminists don't support women. That's the funny thing. Twist it around, because clearly, you know, they want to take control of the narrative that governments aren't doing enough for women, aren't supporting enough, doing enough to help women. Why don't we talk about why feminists don't do enough for women? That feminists do nothing for women. That feminists are actually hurtful or dangerous to women. That feminists are against families. They're against motherhood. They're reducing the amount of mothers in the household. And if you are a young woman who's looking for a traditional man, which you're kind of in the minority, you are mocked and told that you're a pick-me, and they freak out about that. You know, if you act like you're a cute woman, if you have naturally long hair, if you act feminine, you know, even if you are a feminist, you're told that you're a pick-me because you're supposed to wear, you know, dress, look, and act a different way. You know, can't be having you be pretty or cute to men. That's a problem, because men are a problem. Do you see this conflict? They're not bringing people together. Jimmy Kimmel in this video did not try to bring people together. He tried to mock and laugh and separate people. Even though he gave little to no evidence or little to no information. He didn't debate. He didn't really discuss much of anything. You know, in his video at the very beginning, if we can go back to that, he acts kind of shocked or kind of distraught. Let's watch this again real quick as we wrap up.
That could affect many generations of Americans.
You see, he acts worried because he's not getting the results that he wants. And again, maybe he didn't even watch this video, but it seems that way. He's essentially saying here, indirectly, that these kids need to be re-educated. That these kids need to be, you know, told what to believe. You know, public schools and teachers and colleges need to do more to tell these people about the quote-unquote wage gap, that men and women should be at odds at each other, and that the government should have more power to tax and confiscate and control. That's essentially what's going on in this video. Kind of indirectly, but that's what they're doing. But I'll wrap up this video and I'll leave it here. I hope that you enjoyed this video here today. I wish you the very best, and I will see you soon in the next one. Peace out, my friends. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell on your way out, and I will see you soon. Bye.